Welcome back to TinyBlueGames. My name's of course Csaw or Chris, and today we're talking about Final Fantasy XIV in 2021. Today we are finally taking a look at the Sage reveal trailer. I know this isn't new by any means. This is actually it's been out for almost a month now, but I kind of stayed away from the whole Endwalker stuff because I didn't want to get spoiled in any way. I kept my distance. I looked at some very basic feature information online, and that was pretty much it. But last week during stream, a lot of people were telling me, hey, the Sage trailer doesn't have any spoilers in it. You can definitely go check this out. So that's what's really inspired me. And as soon as people said that, I was like, okay, let's go check it out. So I've been wanting to make this video for a while, and I'm really excited to actually sit down and take a look. The first part of this video is going to be looking at the trailer and kind of analyzing it and talk about what's there. The second part of this video is going to be more of a discussion-based video, specifically focused on healers and I'd say their role in MMOs, because I have a very specific feeling about healers, and I'd say healers are probably the class or the role, I guess, that I play the least in MMOs, so I've got some interesting opinions on it. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump into the video. Alrighty, so here we are. Just take a look. I think I'll watch it once through its full completion. It's very quick, it's only about 50 seconds, and then afterwards we'll take a look at some very specific shots that I want to talk about. So there you have it. So first off, I really enjoy the, it's a tease, right? It's a very quick, to the point thing. We'll get more information about the job later on. I like the music. I think of all the things that Final Fantasy XIV has stood out to me, compared to a lot of MMOs, because I like playing different MMOs, obviously, their music selection is always surprising. Be it some sort of very rock or punk song playing during a boss fight, or more, I would say this is more flowery, sort of clownish music, almost like a whimsical kind of thing, which so many games would not choose that for their introduction, and it's a very interesting thing. So that's one of the first things I pick up on, but we're gonna go through this. The other thing, obviously, it's a healer. But here, let me turn this down because it was noisy. It's a healer, but we've got these weapons that I'm gonna try and see if I can stall it at a point where we get a good view. Yeah, these. Okay, so these almost look like flying blades, like flying daggers of sorts. And when you think of healing, you don't necessarily think of flying daggers. You think actually quite the opposite. So very interesting that they would have that. I guess what's particularly cool and also very unique to Final Fantasy XIV is that they would have a unique weapon of some type that only the Sage can use. So that's kind of cool as well. I also have no experience of Sages in any other Final Fantasy games, so I have nothing really to rely on when thinking about what this class could do. It is cool though that they fly around us. It seems like the daggers are always present. We'll keep going here. They kind of hover around, so I think that's a really cool, if they are just constantly hovering around you, that's a really cool animation, and I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy just playing the Sage just for that look, which I think isn't thought about enough. When you think of some of my favorite roles and healers and classes in other games, I always think back to the druid in World of Warcraft, and back in Wrath when I played it ever so slightly, you could be a tree, And I thought that was so cool. Like, I didn't actually care that much about the healing or the skills, surrounding the healing. I just thought it was really cool that you could be a tree. So I think similarly, it's just really cool that you can have these daggers flying around you and like being a part of who you are. So I think that's really cool. Move forward here. A lot of light. We'll see some of the interactions here. We have obviously just casting some heals, but what's particularly interesting as well, as we'll get to it at the end here, we have kind of this weird cage thing. So it almost looks like a shield of some sort. I don't know if it's like a heal or if it'll, like a barrier of some sort would be interesting. But at the end here, I think it's right here. Yeah, so that's very clearly an attack that happens. So I feel like they're going to be quite good at doing heals as well as doing some DPS. And that's really kind of the end discussion I want to have here, because more and more, and it seems to be in all MMOs that I play, in the big MMOs that is, healers need to be doing DPS. And I have some very particular thoughts about that, and we'll discuss that in the second part of this video, because I don't want to tie it down too much, but there's very clearly an emphasis on damage being dealt, and we've talked about the fact that there are swords flying around, that they are showing the damaging skill, so it's going to be very interesting to see how much of their ability is focused on doing damage, or not. This is also really cool too. I wonder if this is like a buff, or like if there's like actual specific emotes they get with this, that they can kind of have them spin around. I think that's really cool. What I also think would be interesting is if at later on you get more of them that fly around you. Like if you start off as a sage and you only have like 2 or something like that, and it kind of, you get more as you progress. I think that would be a really interesting way to show the power of the sage, to kind of visualize that. So I think that'd be really cool. I think it's everything else, and it just cuts off here. So yeah, that's the video. Really quick, really, straight to the point. I think it reveals a lot and also not very much at the same time, which is exactly what you want from a tease video. I think everyone's really excited to see what else is to come with this specific job. But yeah, let's dive into the next part, which is a discussion sort of style video where we'll be talking about healers and their roles within MMOs. Alrighty, so now we're kind of in the final part of this video, which is really focused on the discussion, as I mentioned before. I apologize if you can kind of hear some rumbling in the distance. I have like a party happening somewhere around me that I'm not in, so I apologize for that, but I don't think it should be too bad for the video recording. But yeah, we're talking about healers and their roles in MMORPGs, and I think this is something that's changed a lot since I got into MMOs, and it might be, there's either 2 possibilities here. That number 1, I was just ignorant and it's always been this way, and nothing's actually changed. I've just actually learned how to be good at the game. Or conversely, the actual role of healers has changed, and things within MMOs and how players play has changed over time. And what I'm talking about here is that healers need to DPS, and to a greater extent, everyone needs to DPS. And this has become so prevalent in a lot of different games. When you look at Final Fantasy XIV, when you look at The Elder Scrolls Online, Guild Wars 2, or World of Warcraft, it's all the same that DPS is kind of king. And there's a lot of different reasons for this. One of the clearest examples for me is the actual Mythic Plus dungeon system in World of Warcraft, which is based on timing keys. And because of that, you need to be as quick as possible, and to be as quick as possible, you need to do as much damage as possible. And with that said, the more damage your tank and healer can do, the more overall group damage you do, and the better your chances are at timing specific keys. So that's a very specific example, but it's kind of applicable to a lot of content throughout most MMOs. Now, I want to be very clear here. I think pretty much all content can be cleared with a tank being a tank, a healer being a healer, and DPS doing the DPS. I think the real issue comes when we're focused on what is meta. And meta is such a troubling word in gaming, because it forces people to play a specific way. And it's good and it's bad at the same time. And the biggest reason it's happened is because it's so much easier nowadays to share information. We have all these websites that spread the information of what is best in slot or best to do, and that kind of reinforces the idea of a meta. And I think that is the change that's happened. We discussed at the start here that either things have changed over time or I was just ignorant. I believe things have changed over time. I believe there's been more push towards meta over time, and I believe that healers and support roles like tanks and stuff like that have had to do more damage over time. Now, certain games build classes to do this well, and certain games don't. I think Final Fantasy XIV builds it to do it well. I think a lot of their healing classes are designed in a way that they know that they're going to be doing some damage as well. And more to that, it allows them to sort of interact with the open world better. Like there's a lot of good design reasons why you would want your support roles to actually do some damage, because it makes you feel more impactful with the world. It makes you feel cool. And it makes a lot of sense. You know, if you were someone who was magical enough to bring someone back from the dead or cast a shield on them or like do all this stuff, you're probably magical enough to cause harm with the same type of power. So it does make a lot of sense, and I think there's obviously a balancing that needs to happen. I'm just curious what your guys' thoughts are on this. Like, have you ever stood back and kind of analyzed, does it make sense for healers to do DPS? Does it make sense? Is it something you enjoy, or is it something you feel like you're forced to do? Because honestly, it's one of the things that's kind of kept me away from the healing role in a lot of MMOs. Now, I have tried healing in Final Fantasy XIV, and I actually did enjoy it a lot. That being said, I was playing very low content where I really didn't have to focus on DPSing, and I feel like I would be very concerned at higher level content about fitting in that DPS, because I can very easily get sort of like too focused on DPS and then someone dies, or I can get too focused on healing and not do, I don't know. I feel like it's a tough balancing act, and I don't think it would make me enjoy it as much, but obviously I need to try it to know that for sure. But yeah, that's kind of just a discussion that I had internally with myself after watching this video, because I think it's very clear that the Sage is gonna like be designed in a way that it feels fun to do damage as well as heal. Obviously I don't know that for sure, but those are my thoughts. Anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you enjoyed your this discussion afterwards, and I'd love for you to share your own thoughts in the comments below. But yeah, thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next video.